Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The Movie Podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson! Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Hello everyone, my name is Nick. I'm the host of Nikolai's Kitchen, and I'm also the host of the annual Livestream for the Cure. Livestream for the Cure is a charity event where we raise money with content creators and podcast partners from around the world for the Cancer Research Institute, a wonderful nonprofit researching cancer immunotherapy, training the body's immune system to fight all forms of cancer. This is a mission and a future that I truly believe in. And myself and my team worked tirelessly over the past 5 years to raise over $50,000 for this cause. This year, we're aiming for our biggest single goal to date of $20,000, and we cannot do it without your help. Please join us for the event May 19th through the 21st, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern, for 45 hours of content from people all over the world. Together, we can bring hope for a future immune to cancer. The more eyes we reach, the more dollars we raise. Please help us in making this goal a reality. Together, we can make a difference.
That is right. Welcome to this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I am your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the movie week of March 11th, 2022. Got a great show for you lined up this week on The Movie Wire. We will be reviewing the Netflix time travel and original movie, The Adam Project, starring that sarcastic, wacky Ryan Reynolds. We'll be reviewing the new Disney Pixar Disney Plus exclusive, Turning Red, about a teenage girl when she gets angry turns into a big red panda thing. And the Oscar-nominated movie, West Side Story. Now let's get right down to it. Families now have a new movie exclusively on Disney Plus to check out called Turning Red. Pixar, known for their feel-good crescendos to lead to our heartstrings being tugged to the end with a climax that the studio intends to make the audience go, "Aww." This latest addition to the Pixar family shows a very different but interesting approach. Mei Li, voice of Rosalie Chang, is an awkward but confident with her friend's 13-year-old torn between staying her mother's obedient daughter and dealing with the social stresses of adolescence. Her micromanaging, high-expectations mother, Ming, voice of Sandra Oh, is consistently clinging to her daughter, an unfortunate reality for the teenager. As she changes her interests, relationships, and other things start to change whenever she gets too excited, she morphs into a giant red panda thing. The movie is directed by Domi Shi, who also wrote the script, which is her first big motion picture to direct, which you can tell, and I say this not in a bad way. She takes some risks, and the material and the content in this movie. There's one point where May first turns into the red panda, and her mother, being a parent, thinks she's going through the big change. This scene made me pause because it wasn't in the context of what a normal Disney movie is. But let me be clear on this. This isn't a bad thing. Disney has a place in our hearts even as adults. We love Disney. We cherish Disney. As a parent of a daughter and watching every single Disney movie 1,000 times plus, this scene took me a little off guard. But again, let me be clear. Not in a bad way, quite the opposite. The Disney Pixar formula has kind of stayed in the safe zone when it comes to its current formula. I predicted before I looked it up that this must be someone new to take the helm of this movie, and it was. She's previous credits was mainly an animator for Disney, and I have to say she went out on a limb on this one, not just for that one scene, but to address a preteen awkwardness, overbearing parents, and the emotional impact. As parents, we can watch this movie and relate to Ming of wanting nothing but structure and high expectations from our kids of success in life. Our kids are our hearts, and we want them to have a better life than we have. The pressure of the parent to ensure they grow up to feel a little bit better than we did, We forget the pressure of what they are going through. The subject matter of the movie, I tip my hat to Disney and Pixar because they went out there, out of their comfort zone. They did it in a respectable way. Some of us will cringe out of relation to the overbearing parent growing up, or we find we are guilty of the same thing that Ming does. This movie is successful and a good balance of telling the story of both sides of the parent and the child's point of view. This is a brilliant film that sends the message to parents and keeps the kids entertained by the well-done, big, furry panda thing. These will keep the kids' eyes glued on the screen while tackling some subject matter that will appeal to adults and preteens. I may add this movie may add to some conversations after the movie with your kids. If it doesn't, then have an open and honest conversation with your kids about their emotional well-being and where they're at. This movie looks great as well. I was skeptical at first, with it feeling a little bit hyperactive with the first 10 to 15 minutes. When the movie gets going, it balanced itself off quite nicely. I wish that Disney had confidence in this film to be released in theaters, but at the same time, I can understand with some of the topics it covers, they may wanted to keep it at home where it's a safe area to bond with your kids and have some conversations. As the movie reaches the climax, it has some issues that sets the emotional impact backwards, but by the final moments of the film, the movie will have an emotional impact on preteens and adults. The movie was made with love, experience of growing up, and being a parent. I didn't do research on the history of the background of the creators because I didn't need to. You can just tell from the director and the writers, they experienced it. They have an emotional commitment to this movie. This movie takes some good risks. It's honest, it appeals to all, and at the same time, it knows its audience. Bravo to Disney for taking a risk. I'm giving Turning Red 3.5 stars. Nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, based on the well-known play and story of William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. The original 1957 Broadway smash had an amazing run with 732 performances before going on tour. It was inevitable that this was going to make it to the big screen. The story follows Tony and Maria as two people that fall in love from two gangs, the Jets and the Shark. The Jets and the Sharks are consistently seeking vengeance against each other and seeking out for dominance. The two lovers try and make their forbidden love work against all odds. All right, most of you are familiar with the story of Romeo and Juliet, and most of you are familiar with the West Side Story concept. But the Broadway play was written by Jerome Robbins, who also co-directed alongside Robert Weiss in the 1961 film adaptation of West Side Story. The movie, like the Broadway musical, has remained a classic and a standard for musicals and musical cinema. I remember when I was first introduced to the musical, I was in band class in high school. The sheet music was handed out, was titled Highlights from West Side Story. And being young and not familiar with the film, I gave a loud sigh, expecting pure boredom of another old piece of music. After running through the music and hearing the ensemble play it, I was hooked. After school, I remember walking to the local Blockbuster Video next to my house and renting the film. The original movie, right from the opening, grabs the audience in curiosity. The original film, in my opinion, has aged incredibly well when it comes to theme, material, and music. But with how Hollywood is, in this day and age, it was a matter of time before we got a remake of a successful film. Fast forward 60 years, and now we got a remake of West Side Story. When the trailer first released in early 2021, there was certainly a lot of excitement but nervousness around the film from those that treasured the original. The announcement of Steven Spielberg taking on the musical piqued my curiosity. Given his skill with the entertaining look and feel, I was confident in this, but how the hell would he, one of the world's famous directors, handle a high-stakes remake musical? This is a tough load for Spielberg. So the lights go down in the theater. I take a sip of my water, ready for the opening number. This, to me, was going to set the tone of the film just like the original. The Jets song comes on, and the first thing that caught my curiosity was how Spielberg's vision of this appeals to the eyes and ears. The use of shadows from the get-go grabs the audience's attention. Spielberg brilliantly uses the music to his advantage to use what he's good at. A visual spectacle that doesn't overdo it. He balances his style to support the music, but not to overpower what should be the focus of the movie, the music. This isn't just the opening number. It is used throughout the entire movie. Now, if you've seen the original, do not expect an entire re-imaging of the film. The original music composition is still in this. The time era is the same. There's no returning actors or actresses except for the breathtaking, amazing, phenomenal Rita Moreno, who played Anita in the original film, whom, whenever is on screen, her sweetness, strict but mother-like figure keeps all eyes on her. She is an absolute delight in this movie. The movie was written by Tony Kushner, who has partnered with Spielberg in other period pieces such as Lincoln and Munich, but no musical background either. This would be enough for a musical buff to be turned off by this film, but Kushner respects the importance of the period between Spielberg and Kushner. The style is there, the dialogue is there, the team is absolutely fantastic. Now, the big question, does the film portray Maria and Tony respectfully? Absolutely, and dare I say it, I liked a little better in some aspect of this film versus the original. Now, Spielberg is known for casting a lot of fresh new faces to his films to add to his vision, and he does this in this film. Maria is played by Rachel Zegler, who many may not have heard of before this film. She is actually slated to play Snow White in the Disney live-action remake in 2023, but her past credits are very short. She first performed just recently when she demonstrated her talent singing to a cover of Shallow from A Star Is Born at the Bergen Performing Arts Center. Rachel Zegler absolutely steals the show in this film. Her voice, her innocence, her energy. Zegler is meant to be in this movie. She attacks the role like this is her 732nd Broadway show performance. There will be big things to come for Zegler in the future. I can just see it, and I hope I can see her in more musicals to come. Now, there isn't a Maria without Tony, played by Ansel Elgort, who played in the Divergent series and my personal favorite, Baby Driver. He is absolutely fantastic in this film as well. He balances his gritty but innocent character very well. Zegler and Elgort made a great balance together, where you have Zegler that seems to be meant as a shining star on a big stage on Broadway, and Elgort that does a fantastic job with the balance of not stealing the show to demonstrate his softness. Not to say that he wouldn't do a great job on Broadway, but he does perfectly fine on the big screen. The two have chemistry that you root for, and you know the ending of the West Side Story, and you know the ending of Romeo and Juliet. You know what's gonna happen. But the chemistry is there to the point that you hope for something different for these two. With a feeling like that, you know the film intent is a success and the chemistry is solid. The entire cast is perfect in this film, and it is easy to overdo a musical with fluff. In the visual spectacles, this film respects the original story from Shakespeare in the original movie by not changing the formula, but making your eyes and ears work together in unison. This movie affects the senses in a good way. The only thing that holds this movie back from perfection is the third act, where it does feel a little rushed, and given the events that happen, should feel a little grittier. I would have loved to see the tone change in the third act, but the performances make up for this. The movie well deserves to be nominated for all the Oscars it's up for. I absolutely love musicals, and I'm naturally very critical of them. This was a bold make for Spielberg, but I have to give a standing ovation to him on this one, along with the cast and the filmmakers. The filmmakers took risks on this and made a movie that will keep the audience engulfed in music and visuals that don't overstimulate. A very talented cast of actors and actresses make this a movie worth seeing, and a movie that we generally care for these characters. This stands as one of the best movies of the year. It definitely deserves to be a top contender for all the awards that it's nominated for. 3.5 stars easily. Go check it out. Now, before we get into the final movie review, I just want to take a moment here and say, when I'm doing this recording, it is now the 30th day of this show. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. The response for this show for the first 30 days has been more than I anticipated, so I can't thank you enough for the follows, the listens, the downloads, the reviews, the messages. And if you haven't already, please follow us at Movie Wire Show on Instagram and Twitter. Pop me an email at themoviewireshow@gmail.com. When you email, if you want me to review a particular movie of your curiosity of my opinion, if you want to be a guest on the show, if you want to be a co-reviewer for an episode, if you want me to review your content, your YouTube fan movie, your independent movie that you're working on, feel free to send me that. I know in the first episode, I requested a lot of movies, and the response was pretty decent. I got 13 movies to review for content, and I haven't forgot about you. I just was not anticipating the mass emails here. I am answering them personally. Be patient. Your movie will be reviewed, and you will hear back from me. So if you have a movie you'd like me to review on the show, please indicate that in your email. If you want to be a guest on the show to talk about your movie, put that in your email. With that said, thank you everybody for the first 30 days, and I hope to many more months of movie reviews, movie debates. Thank you also to the filmmakers, creators, and thank you to everybody for supporting your local movie theater. Let's forget about time travel rules during this review. First and foremost, to appease the time travel experts, internet trolls, and cinemaphiles out there, this movie does have holes in it that might drive you absolutely nuts. So leave your brain at the door and turn on your emotional hat. The movie follows Adam Reed, age 12, and still grieving the sudden death of his father a year earlier, walks into his garage one night to find a wounded pilot hiding in there. The pilot turns out to be the older version of himself from the future, where time travel is real. Together, they must work together on an adventure into the past to find their father, set things right, and to save the world. The three have to work together to not only save the world, but to heal wounds from their childhood. Adding to the challenge of their mission, the two discover they really don't like each other very much. When you put two fast-talking, stubborn, same personalities together, they need to figure out how to work with themselves. The original Netflix movie starring Ryan Reynolds as old Adam Reed, Walker Scobell as young Adam Reed, Mark Ruffalo as the late dad Lewis Reed, Jennifer Gardner as Ellie Reed, the mother, and Zoe Saldana as Laura, and Catherine Keener as Maya Saran. This movie is written by some talented writers that don't have any experience in time travel. Jonathan Troper, who wrote for the Banshee TV series, T.S. Nolan, who did the Maze Runner trilogy and the Pacific Rim Uprising. Oh man, that was an awful movie. Ugh. And Jennifer Flackett, who wrote for Big Mouth, Journey of the Center of the Earth, and Nim's Island. This is a great combo of writers, except for Pacific Rim Uprising, which contributes to some good dialogue in the movie. It would be easy for the material to overuse the talent of Ryan Reynolds' funny, sarcastic acting style, but it doesn't overpower the film at all. The film is about time travel as a thematic vehicle to tackle the bigger issue of healing. Thus, why the movie doesn't follow the rules of other time travel movies. Time travel films from the past has taught us never to visit oneself, never make yourself known, don't alter the past, etc., etc., etc. This may irritate some. It did with me at first. Then when I came to realize something very interesting about the film, I was having a blast watching it. The movie doesn't focus on what it should be based on other films have done in the past. It is more focused on the theme of healing. Also, it begs the question that will make audiences wonder, would I get along with myself if I met myself in the past? Would I try and fix all the wrongs to change my childhood? This is a movie too busy on the sentiment of presenting these questions to the audience like a conversation than to worry about the rules of time travel. Time travel, that's for a different movie. A movie that wants to take itself too seriously. This movie is loads of fun, and it succeeds at what it's going for. The performances are great. You have Ryan Reynolds doing what he always does. Walker Scobell does a great young Ryan Reynolds impression, and I absolutely loved Ruffalo in this. I hope I can see more movies of Reynolds and Ruffalo. That's not necessarily a Marvel movie, but these two would be a lot of fun on screen together. The movie lets us use our imagination when it comes to what the future looks like without giving us answers or unrealistic visuals of what it may look like, which will make this movie age very well. For being a time travel movie, it ignores the rules, it doesn't treat the audience like we're idiots, it respects the genre and the audience to let us know it has more important things to worry about than the damn time travel rules. Ruffalo's character is brilliantly used to remind us of this in the third act. The movie will score well with young adults, and if you don't take it too seriously, it is one of the most entertaining originals Netflix has put out there. The dialogue does tend to suffer a little bit just before the third act. That seems a little out of pace, but I'm nitpicking here. The special effects are top-notch when it comes to use of them. The filmmakers did a great job with this. The visuals don't overstimulate, but are very welcoming to the eye. I'm going to do this movie the respect it did for me, not think too much into it. It's fun, it's funny, it's heartwarming, and it's a great treat by Netflix. Again, this movie would have been great on the big screen. I wish that was an option, but other than that, sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, and just enjoy this movie. It is a lot of fun. Your family will enjoy it, and it is extremely rewatchable. I give The Adam Project 3.5 stars. It's one of the best originals Netflix has put out when it comes to entertaining popcorn flicks, so go check it out. All right, in this segment, we usually do our after-credit trailer sneak, but I thought we'd just stick to the news. As I was doing this recording, we got some breaking news that William Hurt has passed away at the age of 71. I haven't really gone into the article. I'm kind of doing it on the fly right now. So I'm pulling up NBC News, and this is an article by NBC News by Daniel Arkin. And the article reads, William Hurt, the Oscar-winning actor best known for his quietly commanding performances in Body Heat, Kiss of the Spider-Woman, Children of the Lesser God, and Broadcast News, died Sunday. He was a few days shy of his 72nd birthday. Hurt's son Alexander said in a statement that his father died peacefully in his home. In a Hollywood career that spanned for more than 4 decades, Hurt alternated between starring and supporting roles. He was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, winning in 1986 for his performance as a gay prisoner in The Kiss of the Spider-Woman. In recent years, Hurt introduced himself to a new generation of viewers as U.S. government official Thaddeus Ross in 5 Marvel movies, including the 2021 spy thriller Black Widow. Hurt was capable of making a big screen impression even with a smaller part. He was particularly memorable as a sinister mob boss in David Cronenberg's The History of Violence, a roughly 10-minute cameo that earned him an Oscar nod for Best Supporting Actor. Hurt was born on March 20th, 1950 in Washington, D.C. He got a start in stage companies before he made his feature debut in Ken Russell's sci-fi horror film Altered States, released in 1980. The decade that followed proved to be particularly fruitful for the tall and subtly authoritative performer. He shot to leading man status with his turn to Lawrence Kasdan's erotic neo-noir thriller Body Heat, burning up the screen alongside Kathleen Turner. He again teamed up with Kasdan, who later in the reunion dramedy The Big Chill, which actually I'm going to stop there. The Big Chill is absolutely one of my favorite movies of William Hurt, other than Beautiful Ohio. If you haven't checked those 2 out, please go check it out. It's some of his best performances. Standing out in a crowded ensemble, an emotionally scarred Vietnam War veteran and drug dealer. Kiss of the Spider-Woman brought Hurt some of the most significant accolades and the glowing reviews of his career. He played Luis Alberto Montoya, who shares a Brazilian prison cell with Raul Julia's leftist activists. Hurt's performance earned him the Best Actor Oscar, as well as the equivalent prizes from a British Academy of Film and Television Arts BAFTA and the National Board of Review. Hurt once said, "I am very proud to be an actor," in his acceptance speech in the 58th Annual Academy Awards. He was nominated for an Oscar a year later for his leading role in a romantic drama, Children of the Lesser God, co-starring with Marlee Matlin. He lost the Oscar to Paul Newman for Martin Scorsese's The Color of Money. Hurt received the 3rd consecutive Oscar nomination as the charming and charismatic but intellectually limited TV's news anchorman Tom Grunick and James L. Brooks' beloved romantic comedy Broadcast News. Time magazine critic Richard Corliss praised Hurt for never standing safely outside his career, always allowing Tom to find the humor in his too rapid success, locating a dimness behind his eyes when Tom is asked a tough question. And for Tom, poor soulless sensation to be, all questions are tough ones. Albert Brooks, who co-starred with Hurt in Broadcast News, mourned his passing in a tweet Sunday. He will be greatly missed, Brooks said in part. So there's obviously a lot of outpouring on the Twitter community right now. I'm just hearing about it, and I just kind of wanted to read it out loud while I'm getting the information to you guys. As a movie news, movie review podcast, we definitely take a lot of these deaths that we've had in the past few months very hurtful, and it seems like we're losing a lot of great talent out there. William Hurt is absolutely an incredible actor, and whenever he's on screen, It's always a joy to see him, whether it's from Marvel movies to some of his independent to some of his Oscar-nominated films. He has done an amazing job, and it is nearly impossible to pinpoint a movie that said William Hurt is attached to and said, William Hurt, that was not your best movie. He gives it his all in every single one of his movies. And I'm kind of speaking on the fly here, but I guess it goes just to say that thoughts and prayers are with the Hurt family. He had an amazing career, died way too young, and Hollywood and all film goers have lost a great talent. Again, a big loss for Hollywood and all of us today. And I also learned as of yesterday that we lost another creator. Brent Renaud was shot and killed in Ukraine on Sunday. Now, whether you have a small role in Hollywood or a big role in Hollywood, he was mostly known for his documentaries, a lot of political topics. This one, especially with everything that's going on in Ukraine, is a heavy loss for Hollywood too, just because of what he stood for and the risks he took in a lot of his films. Out of respect of this podcast and for him, if you haven't seen his work, if you haven't looked him up, check him out on IMDb and just check out some of his work. He is an absolutely brilliant filmmaker, and that one's going to hit hard as well. He was doing what he does best, is location searching in Ukraine and kind of just reporting what he sees and adding that to his creativity. So 2 big losses in Hollywood in the last 48 hours. Wish the families thoughts and prayers. With that said, we're about to wrap up the show. The last thing I'm going to say when it comes to what's happening in the news, on a lighter note, Back to the Future. Back to the Future, we're talking about time travel. We're talking about musicals. I thought it was only right to put the two together here. So just released is the soundtrack to Back to the Future, the musical, which I believe just right pre-COVID did its run in, I think it was London, and it got rave reviews. I took a listen to the soundtrack last night. When you take a movie and put it on Broadway, and I've told you I'm a huge musical fan. I've seen some hits or miss. I've seen Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion, the musical that played at the Fifth Avenue here in Seattle. I saw the premiere of the Mrs. Doubtfire musical that premiered here at the Fifth Avenue in Seattle. And it's a hit or miss. Mrs. Doubtfire obviously made it to New York. Romeo and Michelle's not so much. The music is the key thing that's missing from these musicals. They focus too much on what people want to see in story, and they forget that people want to see musicals as well. I've been disappointed with Mrs. Doubtfire, the musical. Been disappointed with Romeo and Michelle. This is the first soundtrack from a movie to musical that I am actually excited about. I haven't seen the Back to the Future musical with Roger Bart, but after listening to that soundtrack, I have got to see this show. So if you want to take a listen, it's available now on iTunes. It's available on most streaming services. So take a listen to it. If you're not a musical fan, you still have some cool 80s remixes in there that you'll be familiar with from the movie. So take a listen to that. Check it out. That's my one plug. That concludes our show, but I will be back this Wednesday on a special episode where I will be reviewing 3 Oscar-nominated films, King Richard, Dune, and Licorice Pizza. That will be a special episode this coming Wednesday just for all of you. And going into the normal schedule, I will be back Sunday where I review the movie X and the last remaining Oscar-nominated films, Drive My Car and Belfast. So look forward to that. Up until that, don't forget to follow us on Movie Wire Show on Instagram and Twitter, and pop us an email at themoviewireshow@gmail.com. Until then, support your local movie theaters, and thank you all to all you creators.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show, or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.